Hello, and welcome to my Chapter 4 lecture on learning theories for career counseling. So overview, we're going to look at Bandura's foundational theories, look at some learning theorists that are specific to the career counseling profession, and then lastly, going to challenge you guys to look at how these concepts apply to the cast of clients. So, quote for you guys to think about: whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Now, for me, as a primarily cognitive behavioral therapist, I love this because absolutely your thoughts can influence what you are and are not able to do in a number of circumstances. Maybe not every single circumstance, but a lot of them, right? Your willingness to believe that you're capable of change or that you're capable of doing better at something is going to affect your willingness to try to get better at something. So key idea number one, our level of self-confidence and self-efficacy has an impact on our willingness to consider various educational career paths, on the goals that we set for ourselves, and even on the level of success, we experience when striving to reach those goals. Reading a lot sometimes makes me yawn, I apologize. So yes, absolutely, our confidence and efficacy, our belief that we can be effective at the things we do, can have an impact on the goals we set and the level of success that we have. You know, if I think I'm good for nothing and I don't know anything and I'm stupid, I'm never going to achieve any, that's going to really affect my willingness to go on interviews or to do job trainings or a number of different things related to having a career or career development. Okay. Number two, excuse me. Our level of self-confidence and self-efficacy is affected by our learning experiences. So the theories presented in this chapter focus on how past and present learning experiences influence our beliefs about ourselves, our level of self-efficacy, and the impact of these cognitive processes on our career choices, as well as level of career satisfaction. So our learning experiences can impact our confidence. Absolutely. And if our confidence is negatively impacted, we might not, like I said in the last slide, try to get different jobs or push ourselves to get a better, stronger, harder degree because we don't think we're capable of it. Okay. Albert Bandura had two major theories, social learning theory and social cognitive theory. And neither of them is specific to the profession of career counseling, but they each serve as foundation for learning theories of career development. So basic idea of social learning theory is that people learn not only as a result of their own behaviors and the consequences they experience directly, but also from observing others. It's called vicarious or observational learning. So as an example, like, I don't know if any of you have seen those videos where like a dog puppet on a hand is trying to get a treat and it gets smacked by the human when it's doing that. And there's a real dog sitting next to it that was trying to do that before. And then the dog watched the puppet get hit. And then when the treat got offered to the dog, it didn't bite at it anymore. It just waited till it was given the treat. So through watching another dog get punished, another dog, the puppet, he didn't do it again, right? So that's that observational learning. And absolutely can affect people. So social cognitive theory. So whereas social learning theory emphasizes the impact of observation and modeling on a person's learned behaviors, the focus of social cognitive theory is on how an individual's internal processing of information affects his or her behavior. So how you look at the world, how you interpret what happens, affects what you will or won't do. And there's two major concepts of social cognitive theory. So triadic reciprocality and self-efficacy. So triadic reciprocality is that rather than viewing a person's behavior solely as a matter of free will or entirely as a product of environmental influences, Bandura believed a person's behavior and environment and a person all affect one another. So behavior, person, environment, it's like a triangle and they're all interactive. That's that triadic reciprocality there. Self-efficacy is defined as a judgment of one's capability to accomplish a certain level of performance. It's affected by performance accomplishments, vicarious experience, verbal persuasion, and physiological states. So your ability to be effective as a person is rooted in how you have accomplished things. If you've had positive experiences through others, do you verbally persuade yourself, or do others maybe even persuade you? And what physiological states do you experience? Do you have high anxiety in your body when you're doing things or not? Things like that. So self-efficacy theory, low self-efficacy leads to avoidance or tentative completion of tasks. So because you don't really believe you can do things, you avoid them or you partially complete them. In terms of high self-efficacy, a person would be confident in completing a task. As for learning theories, Krumboltz had the social learning theory of career selection, learning theory of career counseling, and happenstance learning theory that he came up with. Lent, Brown, and Hackett came up with social career, cognitive career theory, and Peterson, Sampson, Reardon, and Lenz came up with cognitive information processing approach, CIPA. So John Krumboltz applied Bandura's social learning theory to the field of career counseling, and it evolved over time. It had three primary areas of emphasis relevant to past learning and affecting decision-making, and then using learning in career counseling, and then the role of chance in career development and career counseling as well. And then there are 4 factors. You can see table 4.1 in your book that influence us. We've got genetic endowment, we've got environmental conditions, learning experiences, and task approach skills. And we are influenced by them in a handful of different ways. And so these are all things that you can look at with clients. You know, did their parents go to college? Did they have siblings that went to college? What kind of environment did you grow up in? Was it safe? Was it stable? Was it unstable? Was it unsafe? Did you move 15 times growing up and you never had the same teacher for a whole year of school? Right? These are things to consider. And with learning experiences, did they find that they learned things well? And how do they approach tasks? Right? How are they with problem solving? Is there a learned helplessness issue where they've learned to not do anything for themselves because they've relied on other people to do things for them? Right? These are things to look at. Genetic endowment, special abilities, race, sex, physical appearance, characteristics, including disabilities, and even special abilities relevant to intelligence in these other areas are things that you'd want to look at with regard to career counseling. And also look at these environmental conditions, family, neighborhood and community, school systems, state and national environments. What kinds of things have they been through? What kinds of things have they been exposed to? Have they survived tornadoes? Have they lived in an area where there's no internet, maybe? What kind of labor has been available where they live? Did they live in like a farming town, so they know nothing about business opportunities or being a receptionist or other different things because they had that exposure? So sometimes career counseling can look like literally educating someone on different kinds of career opportunities that exist because they may not know what a lot of them are. Okay, instrumental learning experiences. Krumboltz explained that instrumental learning experiences, ILEs, occur when an individual acts on the environment in such a way to produce certain consequences. Krumboltz used an H diagram to illustrate instrumental learning experiences relevant to antecedents, behaviors, and consequences, ABCs. So you can see the H diagram here. So antecedents, behaviors, consequences. So individuals act on the environment and they learn from the consequences, right? And so antecedents have to do with the situation, setting, history, the things before, maybe even characteristics of the task or problem at hand. And then behavioral responses would be cognitive, emotional responses, maybe even overt behavioral responses, overt meaning they're observable. And then consequences are the direct effects that are produced by whatever action is taken, as well as the cognitive responses, emotional responses that are experienced as outcomes of whatever behavior that is chosen to be done. And you can see figure 4.2 in your text for more about that. In terms of associated learning experiences, Krumboltz, Mitchell, and Jones described ALEs as something including observational learning, in which the individual learns by observing real or fictitious models, as well as the Skinnerian concept of the pairing of stimuli through the classical conditioning paradigm. So ALEs involve pairing a stimuli, and then ALEs involve observation of a model as well. So that's what that big old paragraph says. So Krumboldt's used an O diagram to illustrate associative learning experiences. And you can see the O there, and there's going to be an image that comes up that shows these different diagrams more with filled out examples. Self-observation generalizations, there's overt, covert self-statement evaluating one's own actual or vicarious performance in relation to learned standards, which is similar to self-efficacy. It's not necessarily always accurate, and it might differ depending on the situation or the audience. Self-observation generalizations influence our preferences, and Krumboldt's used a triangle diagram to illustrate the SOGs, which you see here. And then there's also task approach skills, and a parallelogram is used for those. Like I said, there's going to be a slide that has all these different shapes on it. It's just right here. So putting it all together, social learning theory. So let me zoom in so you can see. There's the square, there's the circle. You've got a parallelogram there, a circle there, triangle, another parallelogram, H perhaps, right? So you can see how all those things play in. If you want to see figure 4.6 in your book, that's another way you can look more at that. So learning career theory of career counseling, an extension of Krumboldt's social learning theory of career selection. So there's more emphasis on using learning in the career counseling process. Two primary approaches are the developmental preventive and targeted remedial approaches. The developmental preventative model or learning theory of counseling involves working with young people to assist them in experiencing positive, instrumental, and associative learning, which would lead to developing accurate self-observation generalizations and acquiring useful task approach skills. Generally, this is used in the K through 12 settings, and it's a great rationale for school counselors and school guidance curricula. Okay, as for the targeted remedial approach, actions that career counselors take may help clients address career-related problems. Generally, you want to target faulty learning experiences. So maybe they didn't learn how to do decision-making. Maybe they didn't learn how to do brainstorming. Maybe they didn't learn how to do an interview or make a business outfit appropriate for an interview, things like that. So learning theory of career counseling encourages career counselors to take an active role in understanding how clients' past learning experiences have affected them, in assessing the accuracy of self-observation generalizations, and in challenging faulty thinking. So I can't, I won't, I'll never, all those kinds of unhelpful thoughts. You want to challenge those when working in career counseling with someone, depending on your theory, of course. But ways you can help the client acquire more accurate self-observation generalizations, help clients learn new task approach skills, and take appropriate career-related action. So make a LinkedIn, make an Indeed profile, get on monster.com, go on interviews, print off resumes, whatever these different things might look like that they need to learn. Happenstance learning theory is the latest iteration of Krumboldt's theory. It focuses on the role of chance events that affect initial career choices, and as well as presenting new career opportunities. Rather than placing emphasis on past learning experiences or on ways in which a career counselor can help clients experience new learning experiences and challenge inaccurate beliefs, planned happenstance theory places primary emphasis on helping clients make the most out of chance events. Chance events are seen as common, and skills needed to benefit from planned happenstance become apparent. Indecision is seen as an asset. So being unable to decide, it's seen as a positive thing, because maybe you can find something else because you're not dead set on one thing. Skills in happenstance learning theory: curiosity, where you explore new things; persistence, you keep going despite setbacks; flexibility, you change attitudes and circumstances depending on needing to; optimism is where you view opportunities possible and attainable, and you're willing to take risks and take action in the face of uncertain outcomes. So looking at a client's ability to have these characteristics can really be helpful in determining what's a good approach for career counseling. Are they curious? Are they persistent? Are they flexible, optimistic, and risk-taking? Or are they dead set on one thing and they don't want to look at new stuff? Do they give up at the most smallest of difficulties? Are they inflexible? Are they pessimistic? Are they unwilling to take risks and they're afraid? Right? These are things you want to look at and maybe even work through to help facilitate the career development process. Steps for employing planned happenstance theory and career counseling. You want to normalize it in the client's history, assist them in transformation, teach them produce desirable chance events, and help them overcome any blocks to their action, kind of like what I was talking about in the last slide. Social cognitive career theory. The theorists were Brown and Hackett, and based in their works based on Bandura's social cognitive theory. It's more specific regarding the cognitive factors that affect decision making. So social cognitive career theory is this, Bandura, plus career development, and it created the SCCT. So basically they added a letter in there. So major concepts include impact of contextual factors, self-efficacy, outcome expectations, personal goals, triadic reciprocality, and models. And there are two types of contextual factors that might affect career development that are distal and proximal. Distal being things of the past or things that are distant, and proximal being things that are affecting you now that have proximity to you. And there's some examples there of what those things could look like. But yeah, absolutely. Things that happened a long time ago can impact the way that you're choosing to choose a career now. And things that are happening right now or recently or in your face, right? Those are things that can impact what you're willing to do in your career as well. So absolutely, those things have validity. And then for SCCT, they acknowledge the importance of person-environment interactions in career development. However, it doesn't consider P as possessing a stable, largely unchangeable set of characteristics of the person. So they consider the relationship of a person, his or her behavior, and the environment as reciprocal, right? So B, P, and E there. And so you can see the triadic reciprocality and social cognitive career theory. We've got behavior, person, and environment here, and the different characteristics of each of those. You can see figure 4.7 in your book for more. Okay, so again, SCCT builds on Bandura's concept of triadic reciprocality by focusing on 3 personal determinants of career development, of focusing on self-efficacy beliefs, outcome expectations, and personal goals. So the level of confidence a person has in his or her ability to perform specific behaviors is that self-efficacy, which I mentioned before, and it affects a person's sense of agency, right? Can they do it? Are they capable, right? And these are different ways that people can develop self-efficacy, right? Outcome expectations, a person's expectations about the consequences of any given behavior. These are things that can be physical, social, or self-evaluative. And so are they able to answer questions? If I do this, what will happen, right? Do they know how to weigh the pros and cons of different decisions? And you can help them with that. You can also help them with identifying personal goals. What do they want to do? What do they want to accomplish? Who do they want to become? What do they want to leave as a legacy, perhaps? Triadic reciprocality again, it suggests a tri-directional relationship between each of the personal determinants: self-efficacy, outcome expectations, and personal goals. See the person's in the middle, and then those 3 things are on the outside. And then you can see 2 layers here. So the person is multifaceted here, and I mean, so is the environment, so is the behavior. But there's more to that to be considered. So you can see figure 4.8 to look at that in your book. And then there's 4 models in the SCCT: the interest, choice, performance, and persistent satisfaction models. Okay, and the interest model explains how career interests develop. The choice model helps explain choices that we make in our career. It looks at interactions among person's behaviors and learning and environment. The performance model explains the quality of your job performance. And then the career counseling approaches are developmental and remedial. So for the developmental approach, it has a focus on preventing problems and supporting healthy career development in the youth. And it provides broad exposure to the world, encouraging exploration of interest, promoting skill development, assisting with development of accurate self-efficacy, and teaches about the world of work. This could absolutely be something that you could use with adolescents. They're figuring out they want to go to college, but they don't know for what. And you can help them do like a Myers-Briggs, or you can help them with doing the ONET, the RIASEC, right? You can help them with these different things and determining what do I like, what would be a good fit for me based on my personality as I become an adult and I'm figuring out how to be more independent. Remedial approaches address the impact of self-efficacy beliefs, so challenging inaccurate self-efficacy beliefs, supporting skill development to improve accurate but low self-efficacy beliefs. And also you want to identify and address environmental barriers. So that might look like finding transportation, access to internet, access to a computer. Is there any weather issues to consider? Relationship issues, toxicity issues in terms of family dynamics or a relationship dynamic, right? The CIPA to career, or the SIP approach, excuse me, to career problem solving and decision making. Theorists were Peterson, Sampson, Reardon, and Lenz. And they focused on using a cognitive learning approach to assisting clients with the decision-making step in Frank Parsons' 3-step model. Frank Parsons, father of counseling. 4 SIP assumptions are that both affective and cognitive processes are important to career decision-making and problem solving. One's ability to make sound career decisions depends not only on self and occupational knowledge, but also upon cognitive processes. Career development is a lifelong process requiring many decisions along the way. And the goal of career counseling should be to help clients develop more effective information processing skills, right? And so you can even use these 4 SIP assumptions if you wanted to, or CIP assumptions, as the way to approach career counseling with a client. All right, so we're going to work on making decisions along the way. We're going to work on developing effective information processing skills, right? These can help you with developing treatment goals. There are 2 primary career decision-making operations. You've got information gathering and information processing. 3 information processing domains are knowledge domain, decision-making domain, and executive processing domain. So for knowledge, there's self-knowledge and then there's occupational knowledge. So self is basically that. What do you know about yourself through your lived experiences? And then occupational knowledge is what do you know about your options in the world around you, and looking at the way that information is organized and information is generated, and do you view knowledge as objective and verifiable? There's top-down versus bottom-up processes, right? Do you go from the top of your head into your soul, or do you go the opposite way around? And then for the decision-making domain, there's a generic information processing skills piece here, where you know how to make decisions, and is represented by the CASVI, I think it is. So on one of these next slides. CASVI. That's how it's CASVI. Okay, so represented by the CASVI cycle, communication, analysis, synthesis, valuing, execution. This domain is directly tied to the CIP decision making model, right? So these could even be things that you can identify as goals for career counseling. Let's develop communication skills, analysis skills, synthesis skills, valuing skills, execution skills. Let's work on these things, right? For metacognitions, as part of the executive processing, you're thinking about your decision making. Your 3 types of metacognitions are self-talk, self-awareness, and monitoring and control. As for the pyramid of information, you've got 2 versions, the counselor and the client. You can look at figure 4.13 in your book for more here. There's 3 levels of information processing. There's the knowledge domain, which is the foundational level about yourself and occupation options. Then there's the decision-making skills domain, which is mid-level, and the executive processing, which is the upper level. As for the assessment of the client, you want to look at what's their decision status. Are they decided on what they want to do? Are they undecided, or are they indecisive? I know, I don't know, I'm not sure what I know, right? And there's also the two-dimensional model of readiness to consider, where you're looking at complexity and capability levels. Then you've got this image here, which is figure 4.12 in your book. So this can also be helpful in your direction of your counseling. So what's their decision and what am I going to look at as a result of that? Right? So it can help you be guided in your approach to counseling. Okay, so decided decision status. There's people who have committed either publicly or privately to a specific choice. And there's decision, three kinds of decisions, three kinds of decided. So there's decided confirmation, where you're seeking to confirm something you've decided. Decision implementation, people are trying to get help in achieving what they've decided. And then there's decided conflict avoidance. So people are not actually decided, even though they've publicly committed to a specific thing, maybe because of pressure. Like they went to medical school because their parents said they should be a doctor, but really they want to be a musician or an artist of some kind, right? There's also the undecided decision status, where people have not committed publicly or privately to a specific career choice. Sorry, get jumbled up reading sometimes. So if they have a deferred choice, people who have no urgent need to make a career choice, that's what they would be identified as deferred. Developmental are people who have not yet decided on a career path, but need to because of whatever. And then multi-potential is people who are having a difficult time choosing a career path because they are talented and have many options with which they can be successful. So there's so many options they can't decide, basically. Multi-potential, multiple potentials. Okay, and then the indecisive decision status is people who need to make a career choice, but are having difficulty with executive processing. So their excessive negative self-talk could be something that's in the way. Maybe they got attention deficits, maybe ADHD applies. Maybe they've got confused thought processes, or maybe they're conflictive in their thinking. Or maybe they've got psychological conditions. It could be depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, things of that nature. Okay, and then two-dimensional model of decision-making readiness. There's the capability dimension, which refers to the internal client characteristics, and then the complexity dimension, which refers to external situational factors. So you want to look out for these things. How capable do they feel that they are, and how complex of a situation is the person in that affects their ability to make a decision. So capability dimension, again, it's looking at the individual characteristics that are cognitive and affective factors. So how well can they think? Can they problem solve? What's their motivation? What's their sense of responsibility to resolve this decision or this issue? And then for complexity, right, that's looking at the external situational factors. So cognitive affective factors relevant to family, social situations, economic factors, and organizational things. What are their attitudes? What are their perspectives on these different things that can affect career decisions? Okay, and then you can see figure 4.15 for the two-dimensional model. And then career thoughts inventory, measure 1, it measures an aspect of complexity dimension, which is the external conflict going on, and also measures 2 aspects of the capability dimension involving decision-making and commitment anxiety. So anxiety about making a decision. Oh, I don't know what I want to choose. I just can't make a decision. That's that commitment anxiety. So remember the CASAVI decision-making model: communication, analysis, synthesis, valuing, execution. Might be a good acronym to write down to practice for any quizzes or tests coming up. And there's 2 versions, the counselor version and the client version. And here you can see the CIP decision-making model, figure 4.14. So you can see the metacognitions are up here, CASAVI up here in the middle, and then self-knowledge, occupational knowledge, your knowledge domains are your foundation. And then you've got a chart here where it talks about the counselor version of communication, the client version of communication, and the questions that you're trying to answer through the letter of the decision-making model for each of these, for the counselor, client, and questions to be answered. Very useful. So pausing and reading this would be a good thing, or just focusing on that as you study for your quizzes and such. CIP 7-step delivery sequence involves these 7 steps. So you have your initial interview where you find out who's the person and you say, hello, are they a good fit? And then you got an assessment of what's the issue, what's going on, what are you trying to accomplish? 3 is define the problem clearly and analyze the causes that led to the problem. 4 is formulate goals. What are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to find a new job? Are you trying to learn your personality type? Are you trying to figure out your interests, your likes, your dislikes? 5, developing an individual learning plan. And then 6 is completing that plan. And then 7 is a review and generalization of how things went, what's going on, and are there any remaining issues that need to be resolved. In the initial interview, you want to have brief conversation about why the client is seeking services, rapport building, make an introduction to the career decision-making model. And then looking at the assessment, I talked a little bit about this already, but you can give the career thoughts inventory and look at what needs are there in each section. You can collect basic intake information and then recommend career service needs if they're applicable. And then looking at defining the problem and the cause, we'll look at the reasons for the current situation and the gap between that and why they aren't where they want to go. Why are they stuck where they are? What's the gap? What's the cause for that? Establishing goals, right? And we talked about this before. What do we want to increase knowledge? You want to learn skills? Do you want to address particular issues that are keeping you from being successful? What are the goals? And then develop an individual learning plan. And it can have these different concepts, these different components of goals, resources, purposes, estimated time requirement, what's a priority, get signatures and everything. And then you want to execute. So you want to do what you come up with as a team to try to make their career goals happen. And you can evaluate later. And then if the client has met their goals, you focus on shifting to exit discussion of how they can generalize the knowledge gained. If they've not met the goals, go back and cycle back through the process and get back in there and keep trying to help them accomplish the goals that they have. And if the approach that you're using isn't working, then you try a new approach, right? And then lastly, what you can do is you can apply this information to that original cast of clients and see how this different information can be useful in helping one of them hypothetically. So questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the chat. And thank you for attending this lecture.